What's up, nerds, and welcome to the Nerd History Podcast, a proud part of the Love Thy Nerd Podcast Network, and your home for celebrating the nostalgia that shaped the world of nerd culture. Today, I'm Radio Matt.
And I'm John. I'm John.
Content and resources for Love Thy Nerd, and joining me today is the unstoppable force and the immovable object, John Birkey.
What's up, everybody?
John is... Go ahead.
I'm just here while Daedra gets that thing taken care of. I've wanted to use that joke all week.
Oh, gosh. He is subbing for Daedra over the course of 4 episodes, this being the 4th, as we take a deep look at the nerd history of WrestleMania. So each day this week, we have a new part of the WrestleMania story. WrestleMania 1 through 10 was covered on Monday. Tuesday, we had 11 through 20. Yesterday was 21 through 30. And today, finally, we're looking at WrestleMania's 31 through 40. And then tomorrow, John, 2 Words is back for a special one-off this season. And what are we talking about?
We're talking about WrestleMania.
No way.
I know, right? Crazy.
WrestleMania 41 specifically, the one happening this weekend, just a couple days away. Tomorrow is actually the kickoff of WrestleMania weekend, because we'll have WrestleMania SmackDown, we'll have the Hall of Fame ceremony.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
It's crazy that they were like, you know what's a good idea? Let's do Easter weekend.
And
that was a choice.
It was a choice. This is the latest WrestleMania ever.
Yeah.
They waited to one of the latest Easters we've experienced. Like, let's do it that weweekend. So
you can go to your Good Friday service and then watch the Hall of Fame ceremony.
But we're going to be talking about our predictions and the wrestling landscape of 2025 so far tomorrow. But today, we're going to try and quickly cover each one of the last decade's worth of WrestleManias, and then John and I will come back at the end and talk about it, and then prepare ourselves for the weekend ahead. Let's get into it. For 4 decades, one event has defined professional wrestling on a global scale. The lights, the moments, the legends. It all happens at WrestleMania. This is a 4-part documentary series tracing the rise, the chaos, the reinvention, and the legacy of WWE's biggest night. From the birth of Hulkamania to the fall of the Bloodline, this is the nerd history of WrestleMania. WrestleMania entered its next chapter in the era of reality. The lines blurred. Fan favorites weren't always company favorites, but stars like Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch, and Cody Rhodes showed that the journey mattered. Roman Reigns became inevitable. The fans disappeared during a pandemic and then came back louder than ever. The story was finished. These WrestleManias told stories that took years to pay off, and when they did, the roof came off. WrestleMania 31, March 29th, 2015, Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, California. This one had low expectations going in, and ended up being one of the best WrestleManias of the decade. Great pacing, hot crowd, and an ending nobody saw coming. WrestleMania 31 didn't have the dream card. People weren't sold on Roman Reigns in the main event. The build was shaky, but when the lights went up and the show started, it clicked. This was WWE firing at all cylinders, with one of the boldest finishes in Mania history. Let's jump right into the main event. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns for the WWE Championship. Lesnar was in full monster mode, suplexing Reigns over and over, screaming, "Suplex City!" and bleeding from the mouth. Reigns kept laughing through the pain, eating shots and asking for more. It was brutal, raw, and better than anyone expected. And then, Seth Rollins' music hit. He ran down mid-match, briefcase in hand, and cashed in Money in the Bank on the spot. Suddenly, it was a triple threat. Rollins hit the curb stomp, pinned Reigns, and stole the WWE title. The crowd lost their minds. Commentary called it the Heist of the century. Rollins ran up the ramp holding the title, laughing like a madman. And just like that, a good main event became an iconic one. The rest of the show was solid across the board. Randy Orton versus Seth Rollins earlier in the night was crisp, intense, and ended with one of the best RKO counters ever. Rollins went for the curb stomp, Orton launched him into the air and hit the RKO on the way down. Clean as clean could be. Sting versus Triple H was full of nostalgia. D-Generation X showed up. The NWO showed up. Baseball bats, sledgehammers, chaos everywhere. Triple H won. Yeah, he pinned Sting in Sting's first WWE match, which still feels wrong, but the moment was fun. Undertaker versus Bray Wyatt was slow but symbolic. Taker was back after losing the streak. The match wasn't great. Bray was wrestling on a legit bad ankle, but the crowd wanted Taker back on the winning side, and that's what they got. John Cena versus Rusev for the US title had wild entrances. Rusev came out on a tank. Cena came in to a video about America. The match was solid, and Cena winning helped elevate the US title for the first time in years. AJ Lee and Paige versus the Bella Twins was fine, but it came during a time when fans were chanting for a Divas Revolution and expecting something bigger. The talent was there, the presentation wasn't. Yet. The 7-man ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship opened the night. Daniel Bryan won it, and the crowd loved seeing him get another Mania moment, even if his run afterwards was short due to injuries. Big ladder bumps, high energy, great choice to start the show. WrestleMania 31 wasn't about what was expected, it was about what was executed. Great pacing, no duds, smart storytelling, and an ending that flipped the script completely. WrestleMania 32, April 3rd, 2016, AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. WWE announced a record-breaking crowd of over 101,000. Biggest WrestleMania attendance ever. This was supposed to be huge, but injuries, odd booking, and the sheer length of the show made it one of the most bloated and uneven Manias in history. WrestleMania 32 was massive. Huge stadium, pyro everywhere, big name returns, but the card was kind of cursed. A bunch of top stars were out. Cena, Rollins, Orton, Cesaro, and the company had to pivot. What we got was a show that looked like WrestleMania, but didn't always feel like it. The main event, Triple H versus Roman Reigns for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. It was a long, slow match with a crowd that did not want Roman to win, and WWE pushed through anyway. Roman kicked out of everything, speared Hunter, and held up the title while the stadium gave him a mixed to flat reaction, not the feel-good ending WWE wanted. But earlier, there were high points. Shane McMahon versus The Undertaker inside Hell in a Cell. Shane jumped off the top of the cell. No trick camera, no crash pad, just full send. It was nuts. He missed, obviously, crashing through the announce table. Taker won. The match dragged at times, but that moment alone, unforgettable. Shane's still flying. Charlotte Flair versus Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch was a game changer. It was the rebranding of the Divas division into the WWE Women's Championship, and they got time to work. They stole the show in ring. Charlotte won, but all three came out looking like the future. This match was the real start of the women's evolution on the Mania stage. The ladder match for the Intercontinental title was another highlight. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Zack Ryder, Stardust, Miz, Ziggler, and Sin Cara all flying around. And in a total shocker, Zack Ryder won. Huge moment. Short reign, he lost it the next night, but it got the crowd hyped early. Brock Lesnar versus Dean Ambrose was a huge missed opportunity. Fans were expecting a violent, wild brawl. Instead, it was a short, weirdly flat match, and it felt like Brock wasn't interested. Ambrose brought weapons. Brock brought suplexes, and that was it. The Rock showed up, cut a promo, and beat Eric Rowan in a 6-second match, the shortest in Mania history. Then the Wyatt family surrounded him. John Cena made a surprise return to back him up, which got a massive pop. Totally unnecessary, but totally fun. Also, League of Nations versus New Day happened. Forgettable match, but amazing entrance. New Day came out of a giant box of Booty-O's cereal dressed like Dragon Ball Z characters. After the match, HBK, Mick Foley, and Steve Austin came out, cleaned house, and danced until Austin hit a stunner. Pure nostalgia hit. WrestleMania 32 had scale, it had moments, but the pacing, the main event, and a few dead matches dragged it down. It's a Mania that looked iconic, but under the hood, it needed an edit. WrestleMania 33, April 2nd, 2017, Camping World Stadium in Orlando, Florida. Outdoor show, massive set, the world's longest entrance ramp, and one of the loudest nostalgia pops ever. It was billed as the ultimate thrill ride, and while not every match hit, this one had some unforgettable moments. WrestleMania 33 was a long show, over 5 hours not counting the pre-show, but it gave fans a bit of everything: emotion, surprise returns, hard-hitting matches, and a main event that felt like the end of an era. But let's start where the night peaked: the return of the Hardy Boys. The Raw Tag Team Championship match was originally a triple threat ladder match until the New Day walked out dressed to compete, then swerved everyone by introducing a fourth team. Cue the Hardy Boys music. Crowd lost its mind. Jeff and Matt hadn't been in WWE in nearly a decade. They had just worked a ladder match in Ring of Honor the night before, and now they were back on the biggest stage, climbing ladders like it was 2000 again. Jeff hit a swanton off a huge ladder. They won the titles, biggest pop of the night, easily. The main event, Roman Reigns versus The Undertaker. And yeah, this one was rough. Taker looked worn down. Roman did what he could, but the match dragged. The story was clear. This was supposed to be Taker's last ride. Roman beat him clean after multiple spears. Then, post-match, Taker took off his gloves, hat, and coat and left them in the ring. Symbolic, emotional. The crowd gave him the respect, even if they booed the match. Elsewhere on the card, Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg was short, but awesome. Just under 5 minutes of pure explosiveness. Spears, suplexes, F5s, that's it. Brock won the Universal title, and it was way better than their WrestleMania 20 match. Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt for the WWE title. Not so much. Bray used spooky CGI projector graphics on the mat, worms and bugs. The crowd didn't care. The crowd could barely see it. Orton hit an RKO and won flat. Seth Rollins versus Triple H was a solid unsanctioned match with good storytelling. Seth was selling a bad knee, Triple H was picking him apart, and in the end, Rollins hit the pedigree for the win. Stephanie McMahon went through a table too. Bonus points. John Cena and Nikki Bella versus The Miz and Maurice was more about the post-match moment. Cena proposing to Nikki in the ring. Cute. Crowd wasn't into it, but it hit the mainstream headlines, which was the point. AJ Styles versus Shane McMahon opened the main card and surprised everyone. Shane hung with AJ. Counters, high spots, and a clean Styles clash for the win. Way better than it had any right to be. Kevin Owens versus Chris Jericho for the U.S. title had some great storytelling, built from their amazing Festival of Friendship breakup. Owens won, but the match got a weird spot on the card and never hit top gear. WrestleMania 33 was long. It was uneven, but it had moments. The Hardys' return, Taker's symbolic exit, Lesnar and Goldberg finally getting it right. It felt like closure for some and a spotlight for others. WrestleMania 34, April 8th, 2018, Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans. WWE stacked the card. On paper, this show looked like a classic, and it almost was, until the main event derailed the whole night. WrestleMania 34 was loaded. WWE crammed every major division with stars, title matches, comebacks, dream bouts, and for the first few hours it delivered. But by the end of the night, the crowd was burnt, and the closing match hit with a thud. But let's start with the high point, Ronda Rousey's in-ring debut. It was Ronda Rousey and Kurt Angle versus Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, and no one expected it to be this good. Ronda crushed it. She looked comfortable, confident, and believable from the second she stepped in the ring. The crowd was red hot. She even got Triple H in an armbar at one point. It was chaos in the best way. Ronda made Steph tap. And just like that, WWE had a brand new star. Another huge moment, Daniel Bryan's return to the ring. After being medically cleared, he teamed with Shane McMahon to face Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. The emotion was real. Bryan took a powerbomb on the apron early, sold it like death, then came back with a full comeback sequence. Running drop kicks, yes kicks, the whole deal. He looked great, crowd loved it. He made Zayn tap out to the yes lock. Emotional win. AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura for the WWE Championship was hyped as a dream match, and it was solid, but a little too restrained. The real moment came after the match. Nakamura turned heel with a low blow on AJ. That shocked people and set off a fresh storyline. Charlotte Flair versus Asuka was another strong one. Asuka's undefeated streak was on the line, and it ended. Charlotte made her tap clean to the figure 8. Huge surprise, and even though the loss raised eyebrows, the match itself was a showcase for both. But the main event, Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns, bombed. The crowd was done. They'd been sitting for nearly 7 hours, and instead of something fresh, they got Suplex City again. Brock dominated, Reigns bled a lot, and the crowd chanted for anything but the match. Brock retained, totally out of nowhere, and fans were left confused, bored, or both. Also on the card, the Bludgeon Brothers squashed the Usos and the New Day to win the SmackDown Tag Titles. Cool moment, but forgettable reign. Braun Strowman teamed with a literal child, Nicholas, a fan from the crowd who was actually a referee's son, to beat the Bar for the Raw Tag Titles. The crowd laughed, kids loved it. The belts were vacated the next night, but it was a total WrestleMania moment. The Undertaker squashed John Cena in a surprise match that was teased all night. Cena was in the crowd, got the call, ran backstage, and boom, Taker showed up, squashed him in under 3 minutes. Not a classic, but a fun moment. WrestleMania 34 had the bones of a great show. Ronda shined, Bryan returned, Charlotte snapped, Asuka's streak broke, but that main event just sucked the life out of the Superdome. It's the classic good show, bad finish story. WrestleMania 35, April 7th, 2019, MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. This one was long. Like, real long, but packed with emotional highs and feel-good finishes. For the first time ever, the women closed the show, and 2 underdog stories finally got their payoffs. WrestleMania 35 had one mission: deliver on the hype. And for most of the night, it did exactly that. This was a show about payoffs, years in the making, grassroots support, and WWE finally listening to the crowd. Let's start with the biggest moment, the first women's main event in WrestleMania history. Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair for both the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships. Becky had caught fire leading into this. The man persona took over, fans rallied behind her, and the Becky 2 belts movement took off. The match had energy, but the finish was weird. A botched crucifix pin where Ronda's shoulders weren't fully down. Still, Becky got the win, held up both titles, and the crowd exploded. History made. Earlier, the purest feel-good moment of the night, Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan. Kofi had been in WWE for over a decade, always reliable, never pushed to the top. But the fans changed that. Kofi Mania was born, and WWE leaned in. Bryan was the perfect heel, preachy, smug, and dangerous. The match was emotional, physical, real. And when Kofi hit the Trouble in Paradise and pinned Bryan clean, the crowd lost it. Tears, confetti, his son's in the ring. It was everything a WrestleMania moment should be. Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar opened the main card, and Lesnar attacked him before the bell even rang. But once the match officially started, Rollins hit a low blow and 3 curb stomps to win the Universal title in under 3 minutes. Hot start, big pop, smart booking. Batista versus Triple H was wild. Overbooked, weapons everywhere, and Batista taking bumps like a madman at 50. Triple H ripped out Batista's nose ring with pliers. It was too long, but brutal in the right ways. Triple H won, and Batista retired the next day. Shane McMahon versus The Miz gave us a fun, chaotic mess, featuring a suplex off the platform into some scaffolding that knocked them both out. Shane landed on top, so he won by accident. Comedy gold. AJ Styles versus Randy Orton was good, but got hurt by terrible lighting. Fans in the stadium were blinded by a spotlight and literally couldn't see parts of the match. Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre was Reigns' big match return after beating leukemia. The match itself was just okay, but the moment was more important than the moves. The crowd showed love. Roman won. John Cena came back as the Doctor of Thugonomics, interrupting Elias. Total nostalgia blast. Rhymes, insults, a five-knuckle shuffle. Fans ate it up. The Iconics won the women's tag titles in a surprise finish, stealing the win from Sasha Banks and Bayley. Huge reaction, even if the reign didn't last. WrestleMania 35 was long, over 7 hours if you include the pre-show, but it delivered where it counted. Kofi, Becky, Seth, feel-good wins across the board. It didn't need to be perfect, it just needed to pay off for the people fans had backed. And it did. WrestleMania 36, April 4th and 5th, 2020. This was the first and hopefully only pandemic-era Mania. No fans, no stadium, just a quiet performance center in Orlando, and 2 nights of wrestling history rewritten on the fly. It was surreal, awkward, creative, and surprisingly emotional. WrestleMania 36 wasn't just different, it was completely reimagined. The COVID-19 pandemic shut down live events weeks before Mania, and WWE had to pivot fast. So they taped the show in advance, split it into 2 nights, and did something that felt impossible. They made it work. Let's talk about the main events. Night 1 closed with The Undertaker versus AJ Styles in a boneyard match. And this wasn't a match in a ring, it was a cinematic fight scene, shot like a gritty action movie in a graveyard. AJ Styles showed up in a hearse. Taker rolled in as the American bad boy on a motorcycle. They brawled across a barn, smashed each other into tombstones, and Taker literally buried AJ alive. It was weird, wild, and awesome. For a lot of fans, it became an unexpected favorite, and, as it turned out, Undertaker's last match. Night 2 closed with Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship. Short, intense, 4 minutes of finishers, and Drew hit 4 claymores to finally pin Brock. No crowd, but you could feel the emotion. Drew's rise had been years in the making. WWE aired a shot of him holding the belt, talking directly to the camera. A quiet, powerful moment in the middle of global chaos. Also on the card, John Cena versus The Fiend Bray Wyatt in a Firefly Funhouse match. And listen, this wasn't a match, it was a psychological fever dream. Cena was pulled through alternate realities. NWO Cena, Ruthless Aggression Cena, Puppet Vince yelling about ruthless aggression. It was part parody, part therapy session, part character dissection. Bray won, but the story was about Cena confronting every version of himself, and WWE letting go of logic for something totally experimental. It was weird and it ruled. Edge returned to the ring after 9 years away, facing Randy Orton in a last man standing match. It was long, physical, and very real. Maybe too long, it went nearly 40 minutes, but Edge held his own and delivered a gritty, emotional performance. It ended with a concerto. Edge won, and it meant something. Charlotte Flair beat Rhea Ripley for the NXT Women's Championship in one of the best straight-up wrestling matches of the weekend. Hard-hitting, technical, and gave the NXT brand real shine. Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins was another standout. It started as a standard match, got restarted as no DQ, and ended with Owens diving off the WrestleMania sign, one of the best visuals of the night. Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler ended Becky's historic run. But not quite yet. She retained the Raw Women's title in a short, stiff match that felt more like a fight than a showcase. A few weeks later, she would reveal that the winner of the Women's Money in the Bank match that year was unknowingly competing for the Raw Women's title itself, as Becky was stepping away from the ring because she was pregnant. Braun Strowman replaced Roman Reigns, who pulled out due to health concerns, and squashed Goldberg to win the Universal title. Not much of a match, but it served its purpose. WrestleMania 36 was quiet, eerie, strange, but it showed WWE's ability to adapt under pressure. The cinematic matches stole the show. Drew got his moment, Edge came back, and Taker went out with style. No crowd, but still, a WrestleMania people will never forget. WrestleMania 37, April 10th and 11th, 2021, Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida. After a full year with no fans, they were back. Limited capacity, socially distanced, and soaked from rain, but it didn't matter. The energy was electric. This was WWE's first real step back toward normal, and they made it count. WrestleMania 37 opened with a storm delay. The show started late, and WWE had to improvise with unscripted backstage interviews while rain hammered the stadium. It was messy, it was real, and somehow it made the show better. Fans were back, wrestlers were amped, everyone felt like they'd been holding their breath for a year, and now they could breathe again. Let's talk about the main event of Night 1. Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair for the SmackDown Women's Championship. This was the first time two black women main evented WrestleMania, and the emotion was there before the bell even rang. You could see Bianca tearing up, the crowd was on fire, and they delivered a classic. Power, speed, storytelling. Bianca's hair whip sounded like a gunshot. She countered a Banks springboard into a KOD and pinned her clean. Massive pop, one of the most important Mania moments of the decade. Night 2 was all about Roman Reigns. He defended the Universal title against Edge and Daniel Bryan in a triple threat that had everything: nostalgia, technical wrestling, power. Crowds split in all directions. Roman didn't just win, he stacked both guys on top of each other and pinned them at the same time. That image said it all. This was no longer the big dog. This was God Mode Roman. Fully heel, fully in control. Elsewhere on Night 1, Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre opened the weekend for the WWE title. And in a surprise, Lashley retained. Drew went out cold in the Hurt Lock. Great opener, hard-hitting, and the right call. Bobby was peaking, and the crowd loved it. Bad Bunny made his in-ring debut, teaming with Damian Priest against The Miz and John Morrison, and stole the dang show. The guy hit a Canadian destroyer. He took bumps. He nailed his timing. Fans went from skeptical to blown away. One of the best celebrity performances ever in wrestling. Cesaro versus Seth Rollins was a technical gem. Cesaro finally got his first singles match at Mania and made the most of it. Giant swing, UFO, and a clean win over Seth. The internet rejoiced. Night 2 had more ups and downs. Rhea Ripley beat Asuka to win the Raw Women's Championship in a solid, if slightly rushed match that helped reset the division. Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn, with Logan Paul in the mix, was short but wild. KO stunned Sami, then stunned Logan Paul for the biggest pop of the segment. The Fiend versus Randy Orton. Oof. Looked cool visually. Creepy giant Jack-in-the-Box entrance, but ended with Alexa Bliss bleeding black goo and distracting Bray. Orton hit one RKO and won. The crowd hated it, and WWE dropped the whole thing soon after. WrestleMania 37 was a vibe reset. Fans were back, big moments hit. Bianca, Roman, Lashley all came out stronger than they went in. It wasn't perfect, but it was emotional, loud, and necessary. WrestleMania 38, April 2nd and 3rd, 2022, AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Texas. This show was fun. That's the best way to put it. 2 nights packed with surprises, nostalgia, chaos, and one very loud, very unexpected, oh my gosh, he's back moment. WrestleMania 38 didn't try to be serious business start to finish. It tried to be entertainment, and it worked. Let's start with Night 1, because that's where the roof came off. Stone Cold Steve Austin made his in-ring return after 19 years. The match wasn't officially advertised, just billed as a KO show segment with Kevin Owens, but once KO challenged him to a no-holds-barred match on the spot, Austin said yes, cracked some beers, and started throwing fists. And the match was actually great. Austin brawled around the arena, took suplexes on the floor, and hit stunners like he'd never left. He beat Owens clean, soaked in the pop, and then stunned him again just because. Nostalgia done right. Also on Night 1, Cody Rhodes returned to WWE. Not as Stardust, not repackaged, but as the American Nightmare, straight out of AEW. He was the mystery opponent for Seth Rollins, and when his music hit, the crowd went nuts. The match was physical, dramatic, and full of storytelling callbacks. Cody hit multiple crossroads, even paid tribute to his dad with a bionic elbow, and got the clean win. It felt like a moment. Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch might have been the best pure match of the weekend. A year after Becky squashed Bianca in 26 seconds, this was the rematch, and it delivered. High energy, crisp counters, brutal spots, Bianca hit the KOD and won the Raw Women's Championship. Redemption complete. Night 2, chaos in the best way. Pat McAfee wrestled and absolutely crushed it. He beat Austin Theory, looked legit, had the crowd with him, and then he got challenged by Vince McMahon. Yes, the 76-year-old Vince took off his shirt, got in the ring, and beat McAfee with the help from Theory. It was awkward, hilarious, and bizarre, but it didn't end there, because then Stone Cold's music hit again. Austin came back out, stunned Theory, stunned Vince after one of the worst stunner sells ever, which he'd already had one of those in the past that we thought could never be beaten. This beat it. It was bad. And then Austin stunned McAfee, mid-beer chug. It was nonsense, but it was gold. Edge versus AJ Styles was a technical war, methodical, stiff, and clean. Edge won with help from Damian Priest, kicking off the Judgment Day faction. Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville was pure comedy. Interference from Wee Man, mousetraps, giant hands, tasers, full Looney Tunes. Sami bumped like a maniac and made it all work. Knoxville pinned him with a literal giant mousetrap. Stupid. Wonderful. Main event, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. Again. This time to unify the WWE and Universal titles. It was short, all finishers, big slams, and Roman won clean after a spear. It was fine. Not legendary, but decisive. The real story, Roman was now the guy. Period. WrestleMania 38 didn't try to be a work rate classic. It gave you surprises, nostalgia, bangers, comedy, and moments people would replay over and over again. And that's what Mania's all about. WrestleMania 39, April 1st and 2nd, 2023, SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. The tagline, WrestleMania goes Hollywood. Again. And this time, it had the glitz, the drama, and the best long-term storytelling WWE had pulled off in years. This was the peak of the Bloodline saga, and it gave us one of the greatest tag matches of all time. WrestleMania 39 was 2 nights of earned moments, high-stakes drama, and a couple controversial finishes, but it felt big from top to bottom, and it had a clear theme: stories first, spectacle second. Let's start with night 1, because it might have been the best single night of WrestleMania in modern history. Main event, the Usos versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens for the undisputed tag team titles. First time a tag match headlined Mania since the 80s, and it deserved it. This was the emotional payoff to a year-long arc. Sami's betrayal of the Bloodline, his reunion with KO, the crowd living and dying with every near fall. And in the end, Sami hit 3 haluva kicks on Jey Uso and got the win. The place exploded, one of the most satisfying Mania finishes ever. Earlier that night, Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's title was a straight-up war. They beat the heck out of each other. Stiff shots, suplexes, high-impact stuff. Rhea hit a riptide from the top rope and pinned Charlotte clean. Massive win. She'd officially arrived as a top-tier star. Rey Mysterio versus Dominic Mysterio was pure storytelling fun. Dom came out in a prison van. Rey came out with Snoop Dogg. There was family drama, belt whipping, Eddie tributes, and Rey shutting his son up with a 619. The crowd loved it. Also, Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul over-delivered. Logan flew in on a zip line holding a Prime bottle. A Prime bottle mascot was also hanging around the ring with KSI inside it, of course. And the match was crisp and creative. Seth got the win, but the crowd got what they wanted. Night 2, more serious. Higher stakes, more divisive. The main event, Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes for the undisputed WWE Championship. The story was perfect. Cody returned, won the Rumble, chasing the belt his father never won. He had the crowd, the momentum, the fireworks, and for 30 minutes, the match told the story. Near falls, interference, drama, and then Solo Sikoa reappeared. Spike, spear, Roman retained. The crowd was stunned. WWE doubled down on the Bloodline. No feel-good ending yet. Cody's story wasn't finished, and for some fans, that was the wrong call. But it kept the saga going. Elsewhere on night 2, Gunther versus Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre for the Intercontinental title was pure violence. Stiff shots, hard chops, no wasted motion. Gunther retained in a straight-up war. Arguably the best wrestling match of the weekend. Edge versus Demon Finn Balor in Hell in a Cell was intense, but hurt by a real-life moment. Edge hit Finn with a ladder and cracked his head open badly. They had to pause mid-match for medical attention, which threw off the pacing. Brock Lesnar versus Omos opened night 2. It was a short, silly spectacle. Brock German suplexed a giant. Fans ate it up for what it was. The Women's Showcase tag match and Liv Raquel winning on night 2 were filler, but fun. Snoop Dogg filling in for Shane McMahon after Shane blew out his knee during a surprise return. Also an unexpected MVP moment. Snoop hit a people's elbow. No notes. WrestleMania 39 was cinematic, character-driven, and polished. Night 1 was all highs. Night 2 had the bigger stakes and bigger debates, but together, this was Hollywood done right. WrestleMania 40, April 6th and 7th, 2024 at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. And this one was massive. 2 nights, a sold-out crowd, title changes, career-defining moments, and the end of one of the greatest championship runs of all time. WWE didn't just hype this as a historic WrestleMania, they delivered on it. This was the Bloodline saga's climax, and it stuck the landing. Let's start with night 1, because the drama kicked off immediately. The Rock returned to the ring for the first time in over a decade, teaming with Roman Reigns to face Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. The stipulation, if Cody and Seth won, Roman would face Cody the next night under normal rules. But if Rock and Roman won, it would be Bloodline rules. And somewhat predictably, it went the Bloodline's way. The match was wild, cinematic in scale, heavy on the storytelling. Rock was jacked, serious, and working full heel for the first time in years. After a brutal finish, Rock and Roman stood tall, and Cody's uphill battle just got steeper. But the biggest pop of night 1, Sami Zayn finally dethroned Gunther, ending his 666-day Intercontinental title reign. The match was stiff, emotional, and the crowd was living for every near fall. Sami hit the haluva kick and the building shook. Huge payoff. Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch opened the show and set the tone. Rhea was dominant, Becky was scrappy, and the crowd was split. Rhea won clean and cemented herself as the alpha of the division. Jey Uso beat Jimmy Uso in a long brewing brother versus brother match. Not a classic, but satisfying. Jey got his moment, and the crowd was with him the whole way. Then came night 2, and everything built to the main event. Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. Over a year of build. The rematch from WrestleMania 39. This time, under Bloodline rules. Basically, no rules at all. This match was madness. Solo Sikoa interfered, The Rock returned, John Cena ran down for the save, The Undertaker appeared and took out Rock with a chokeslam. It was total chaos, and it worked. It was booked like a fan fiction event. Philly was losing their minds. In the end, Cody hit Crossroads 3 times. 1, 2, 3, new champion. Roman's 1,316-day reign was over. Confetti. Emotion. Cody had finally finished the story. But that wasn't the only title to change hands. Seth Rollins lost the World Heavyweight Championship to Drew McIntyre, only for Damian Priest to immediately cash in Money in the Bank and beat Drew. 3 title holders in 5 minutes. The crowd didn't stop reacting. Bayley beat Io Sky to win the WWE Women's Championship in a full circle moment, ending their damage control storyline on a high note. And Logan Paul retained his US title in a triple threat against Randy Orton and Kevin Owens, with help from Brass Knucks, of course. Still a heat magnet, still impressing in the ring. Also, LA Knight made his WrestleMania debut and beat AJ Styles, a big moment for a guy who rose fast on fan support. WrestleMania 40 was the end of one era and the launchpad for the next. Cody finally finished the story. Roman's legendary run closed. Rock came back. Cena showed up. Taker gave us one last lights out moment. This was WWE stacking the deck with every tool they had, and it paid off. WrestleMania 40 wasn't just an anniversary, it was a conclusion. The Bloodline saga ended. Cody finished the story, and a new generation stood ready. Legends returned, records fell, and in Philadelphia, the emotion poured out like confetti. It took 4 decades to get here, and now, with the past honored and the future wide open, WrestleMania feels more alive than ever. For 40 years, WrestleMania has been more than just a wrestling show. It's been a mirror, reflecting where the business was, where the world was, and where the fans were willing to go. From sold-out arenas to empty performance centers, from celebrities to underdogs, from Hulk Hogan to Cody Rhodes, every era left its mark. Some stories ended perfectly, others didn't. But every single year, the same question comes back around. What's WrestleMania got for us this time? Because if history tells us anything, it's that when the lights hit, when the music hits, when the world is watching, WrestleMania finds a way to deliver. It is discussion time for the last decade of WrestleManias. WrestleMania 31 ended with one of the greatest swerves ever. Seth Rollins cashing in Money in the Bank mid-main event.
The heist of the century!
Was this the best cash-in of all time?
Yeah.
Sound less confident, John.
Like, it was. But my favorite was when Daniel Bryan cashed in on the Big Show while he was sleeping.
Forgot all about that. That's pretty good.
And then woke him up by screaming, yes, yes, yes. Like, it was, yeah, no, of course, it was, yeah, it was definitely the best cash in.
I think what made it even better is that no one really wanted this main event.
Yeah.
Like, Roman and Brock at this point had already been an ad nauseum match.
And it was just going to get worse after this.
Right, and it continued for still several years. But I think everyone was just like, all right, we gotta.
Yeah.
We got our big send-off last year with Daniel Bryan. The odds that this is going to be a great finale are pretty low. But Seth Rollins running in after they have both beaten the crap out of each other to the point where they're knocked down trying to breathe.
Yeah.
And Seth Rollins running in down a very long ramp.
Yeah, 80 yards.
To cash in and then run right back out of the ring and up the ramp with the title, swing it over his head.
Yeah.
One of the coolest shots in WrestleMania history.
Yeah, that was great. It was fantastic.
Really loved it. It made the night for me, and it was already a pretty good WrestleMania.
That was good WrestleMania.
We had Sting versus Triple H. Sting should have won. Sting should have won.
Sting should definitely won.
We didn't need to make it a WCW, WWF thing. Didn't need to be.
That was Undertaker came back after getting defeated at 30, and he had this weird haircut, and he was fighting Bray Wyatt. It was very odd.
Yeah. Yeah. It was the Bray Wyatt match, and then Bray Wyatt lost. Bray Wyatt was pushing that he was the new face of fear.
Yeah.
And then he didn't win.
Was also the year that Rusev came out in a tank.
In a tank. Rolled right out in that tank, baby.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty neat. I loved it. I don't care that the person... I mean, that did give us a pretty good comedy bit that I see on TikTok every now and then, where it's like, I don't think non-wrestling fans understand how unpredictable wrestling is.
How crazy that was.
Do you know who won the main event this last year's
wasn't even in the match.
Yeah. Undertaker had a send-off, or at least what seemed like a send-off at WrestleMania 33. And then it wasn't. WrestleMania 33, he faced Roman Reigns.
Yep.
Lost again. Mm-hmm. Piled his jacket and his gloves and his hat. Left it in the ring and walked off. And it seemed like, to everyone watching, oh, he's done.
Yeah.
He done.
He did that several times.
But that was the big one.
Yeah.
That was the first one.
Yeah.
That was the one where we're like, oh, okay, it's really happening.
He might be done.
And then the next year, it wasn't. Because the next year...
Who fought the next year?
He fought John Cena.
Oh, that's right.
The next year was John Cena didn't have a match. He challenged The Undertaker, and The Undertaker said no, or didn't respond or something. And so he just showed up at WrestleMania as a fan and sat in the seat until he got a call, and he rolled back there.
I remember that. I remember that.
And then, boom, lightning bolt, boom, that pile of stuff was in the ring again. Then boom, lightning bolt and darkness, and boom, it was gone again, and now it's on him, and he's coming down to the ring, and so he's back. And so did that take away? Should that have been the send-off? Should the Roman Reigns match have been the end if they were going to do that symbolic thing?
If the match had been better,
you think that was it? You think it was a bad match?
Absolute.
It was pretty garbage.
Water.
It was pretty garbage. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Roman made Undertaker tap with a go-go plata. Like, come on, get the
heck out of here!
Come on,
this is the undead man. Yeah,
I think that after WrestleMania 30, everything the Undertaker did risked hurting his legacy more than the chance of it helping.
Right. And see, that's where we kind of talked about that yesterday. That's where I'm kind of split between, like, should they have ended it when they did or held off, and should it have been like the last thing? Like, should he have lost a career match to end the streak and be done with it? Because again, we'd see that coming, but I also feel like it would be more emotional.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anybody was expecting at WrestleMania 30 Taker's leaving now, and so no one was prepared for it. No one was prepared for those emotions.
No.
Meanwhile, Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, everyone was prepared. Ric Flair was losing. And so there's a give and take, I guess, about which one of those avenues would have been better in this situation. But I do think it was a bit rough, the off and on nature of his wins and losses, I guess, moving forward.
And then he just became another participant.
Yeah. Yeah, it took away from it a little bit. So WrestleMania 35 gave us Becky Lynch becoming Becky Two Belts, winning in the main event against Charlotte and Ronda Rousey.
Okay.
Kofi Mania, Kofi winning the title, WWE title, I believe.
That was against Daniel Bryan, right?
Yeah, against heel Daniel Bryan. With the
wooden title.
wooden title, which was pretty dope.
Yeah.
I would love to have that. And Seth Rollins also winning big. Feel good finishes really kind of across the board.
Yeah.
But the women's match, which I believe that's the match you were referring to yesterday, saying that it might not be main event quality. Is that what you were talking about? Or just Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey? Because this was the main event one for WrestleMania.
Okay.
It's Charlotte, Ronda Rousey, and Becky Lynch in a triple threat.
Yeah. I don't remember that match well enough.
Okay. So how it ended was a roll-up. Becky Lynch rolled up Ronda Rousey. But apparently Ronda Rousey's shoulder was not all the way down. It was supposed to be that was a botch, but it was clear on camera that her shoulder was not all the way down. Like, it was impossible to miss. But it was still a count and a victory. And in the moment, it seemed like, yes, this is amazing, but then they had to play up that angle moving forward.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't actually pinned. They've kind of gone back and blamed that on the fact that the rest of the night kind of went long, and they had to shorten the main event a bit. Did that kind of take the shine off of the fact that this was the first women's main event at WrestleMania?
I don't think it did, because, and this is not a poo-poo on Ronda Rousey, but like, when you get someone like Ronda Rousey who came from the background that she came from, I mostly just consider it a win if they don't severely hurt somebody.
That's not a bad point.
I think I mean, really, like, as long as you don't actually like severely accidentally hurt somebody, yeah, it's a win. I think, if I remember correctly, it was a fine match.
It was a pretty good match,
and they did a really good job of kind of even keeling the matches, even though it was, Kofi Mania started, which really probably should have been the main event.
Yeah, it did feel a little underwhelming.
And, but you had like Batista Triple H, and that was a good match, but it wasn't like, oh, we need to see this. That was just like, give me what I want, and that was
you know what I want. Give me what I want.
You know what I want. Give me what I want. You know.
What do you want? Tell me what you want. You know what I want. I want it.
You know. Was that the WrestleMania where Randy Orton rode?
I think that was the next one. I think. No, it would have to have been that one, because the next one was the pandemic era. Yeah.
Rode it for 80 yards.
We're not going to talk about what that was. You can just go look at it and tell us what that looks like.
Look at a picture, find out.
Yeah, we watched that together and just like, odd choice.
It's weird.
Odd choice. All right, speaking of WrestleMania 36, this was the pandemic show where it was literally like 2 weeks before WrestleMania, where they had to be like, okay, we can't do WrestleMania the way we normally do it. So they had to go to the Performance Center.
Yeah.
And they pre-recorded the entire thing, did a few matches in a cinematic style, but it was still, it still looked like a basic match. But then they had two actual cinematic, like short film type matches. And this was,
which were great,
the Boneyard match, Undertaker's true final match with AJ Styles, and Firefly Funhouse, where Bray Wyatt took John Cena on a fever dream through multiple realities of John Cena's life. Should they have stopped? Because we only really got them there. Now, we've seen flares of cinematic stuff. Like last year for WrestleMania, they had that cool moment with Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes meeting up in that football stadium that I don't remember what it was now.
It was Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech's. But we haven't seen a cinematic match again.
Yeah.
Is that something we should still be doing? Because you're right. They were amazing.
They were amazing. And if you have a reason to do those matches, that's fine. But the one with the Undertaker, it worked because, like, oh, it's a Boneyard match, but like, it's the last match. There's this edge of still mysteriousness with Undertaker. Obviously, you couldn't have done the Firefly Funhouse match live,
right?
Like,
the way that was pulled off, there's no way.
I wouldn't mind seeing more of them. I just don't know. I just can't imagine a match at the moment where I think, oh, we should have done that.
Yeah, there was. I remember. way back when this happened, you and I had talked on an episode. I'm pretty sure we talked about it on an episode. We might have just talked about it offhand. But I had said that should have been the first of several Firefly Funhouse matches for different people. Mm-hmm. And it should be like everybody that Bray Wyatt's former, Eater of Worlds Bray Wyatt had wronged him in the past, and he had to go confront all of them. Yeah. And then he should just burn his whole self down at the end. The last one should be him doing one with him, like him, both versions of the Fiend. The Fiend versus Bray Wyatt's silly guy version. Kids show. There we go. Whatever it was. And that should have been like all cinematic matches like that. Just a crazy, almost winking at the industry kind of off the wall nonsense. Yeah. I thought that would have been great, played out over the course of a year or two at just all the big four or something like that. The next Firefly match.
Because you saw that, that's what Bray Wyatt wanted to do at 33 when he wrestled Randy Orton. Mm-hmm. And they, randomly in the ring, it would just project there was, cockroaches or something.
Right.
And, Randy Orton was supposed to act scared of the projected. It was weird.
It was weird.
But, no, I think that would have been awesome.
Yeah. Because there were so many things that they tried with The Fiend that were just
missed.
They threw a whole bunch of the wall, and most of it didn't stick. Yeah. But that stuck so cleanly. Yeah. Remembering dousing the entire ring in red light for the entirety of the match. Yeah. For certain matches with him. And just what? What are
we doing?
Nobody liked that the first time, and y'all did it 4 times.
What are we doing?
Yeah. There was going to be lore that the red light was what gave the Fiend his strength, his invulnerability in the ring. Yeah. And then Seth Rollins threw a heap of garbage on him and won. Yeah. I'm like, what's happening? Yep, that's it. All right, last one. No, wait, is it the last one? Yeah, last one. WrestleMania 40 ended Roman Reigns' 1,316-day title reign.
That's a lot.
It gave Cody Rhodes his crowning moment. It brought The Rock back as a full heel. When it comes to the Bloodline saga, which I would consider that over. Yeah. I would have considered it over that night. Yeah. Because everything that's happened in the prologue has just been very underwhelming, and nobody cares about Solo Sikoa as the leader of the Bloodline.
Nope, not at all.
And I really hope the nail in the coffin for it comes, and we'll talk about this tomorrow in our predictions. I'm hoping the nail in the coffin of Solo's Bloodline comes at this WrestleMania. Yeah. But did WWE wrap up that Bloodline saga the right way and at the perfect time?
Yeah, I think so, and I think they did it. I mean, it was definitely the culmination of something very, very good and very big and powerful. And yeah, I don't think you could have ended it better.
Because I remember the year before, it was the same match. It was Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes. And I don't know if both of us were, but I was convinced Cody was winning in 39.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah. And so when it didn't happen, I was like, are we seriously going to have another year of Bloodline ruling everything?
And we did.
But then it was great.
Yeah.
It was still a fantastic year. So I was wrong in that. Yeah. Because I also agree that once we actually got to WrestleMania 40 and how that played out, it was like fan fiction. Mm-hmm. Like it was almost unreal how they put it together, and so satisfying. Yeah. Only thing I would have liked to see was Austin in there for 5 seconds at one point. Yeah, maybe. That would have made it 100% for fan fiction.
Yeah, I think that... and that's what you're talking about with like a year of storytelling. Mm-hmm. Cody Rhodes loses, and then he's got to go through this gauntlet of matches with Seth Rollins, and he's got to get injured and not be able to come back, and then all of a sudden he does come back, and it's it was the perfect way to quote unquote finish the story.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, I still remember just the end of last year, just being like,
"What is happening?"
If that was the end of all wrestling, I'd be satisfied. That would be a great finale
of wrestling.
Like, we're done after this.
Yeah.
I'm happy, walking away happy.
Yeah.
That's really a tribute to Cody Rhodes here.
Oh,
I mean, I couldn't give a flying fart about Cody Rhodes prior to him going to AEW. When he was first to
1000%.
WWE, he's a bathroom match. There's no way I want to see Cody Rhodes on my screen. I couldn't care at all.
Yep.
I would rather see Goldust than any version of Cody Rhodes that we had back then. But the way he came back WrestleMania 38 and the run that he's had these last 2 years has just been unprecedented, I feel like. Because he got to this point by leaving.
Yeah.
And building something all new.
And then leaving it.
And then leaving that to come back still. Something super successful, something nobody else has done.
Yeah.
Like, essentially starting from scratch with a brand new wrestling promotion and then getting it to the point where, at the time, at least when it first started, it was a legit competitor.
It was big. It was important.
And so, like, that's not a WrestleMania, or that's not a WWE made man.
Yeah.
Like, he got his groundwork done in WWE.
Yeah.
He became a star in AEW, well, in the Indies, and then in AEW.
Yeah.
And so the fact that WWE maybe learned their lesson from prior times and didn't take anything out on him when he came back, like, he wasn't the whipping boy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm specifically thinking about Sting. Can you imagine if we'd have treated Sting like we treated Cody Rhodes? Like, he had prestige to him when he came, but losing that first match against Triple H, even though it still ended with all of them hugging or whatever, and it was a handshake, whatever, big deal, you wanted Sting to win.
Yeah.
Because he was the biggest deal of WCW by the end of it. And so here, Cody Rhodes didn't become the whipping boy. He became the star. Now, he lost a lot, but every loss served a purpose to his story.
Yeah.
It's just so well done. I'm still so excited. I don't think WrestleMania 41 is going to be anywhere near as good as WrestleMania 40, but I'm still also super hopeful and excited. And that's something that we've talked about. You know, we hadn't felt this way in forever. Even when we started this podcast, which has been several years now.
Yeah.
For the first 75% of that,
crapping
it's
on
just
things.
us crapping on WWE almost every week and trying to pull the little bits that we liked out.
Yep. And here we are.
So I'm so excited about the future. And WrestleMania always pulls out that feeling of both nostalgia and the future at the same time. I think the fact that it has gone on now for 41 straight years is a testament that it hasn't lost any of its luster.
Yeah. It's only gained.
I'm very excited to come back tomorrow to talk about WrestleMania 41 and what we think is going to go down.
It's going to be the best.
With that, the final part of the nerd history of WrestleMania comes to a close, but we are not done yet. Like I said, tomorrow is the official kickoff of WrestleMania weekend, the best 4 days of the year, and we're going to be back with our WrestleMania 41 Go Home special of the Two Words podcast. Thanks for joining me,
Hey,
John.
thanks for having me, man. I missed this.
It's been a minute since we've been recording together, and so I'm excited, especially excited for tomorrow's show. You're not going to want to miss it. It'll be a great kickoff for your WrestleMania weekend. And if you've never watched wrestling before, it's a
great week.
It's perfect time to start. Peacock is $10. Buy it for 1 month so you can watch this.
Have we ever done like an onboarding special of like, hey, do you want to get into wrestling? This is what you need to watch.
We haven't, but that's a great idea for our season premiere next time we come back.
I think I've got something. In the words of Pat McAfee, I'm up to something.
All right, it's going to be a blast. Don't miss it. It'll be over on the
We're never going to do that show.
On the
we always talk about shows we're going to do and we never do them.
Make a note. Tweet us. Go follow us over at 2 Words, youtube.com/@2wordsltn so you don't miss the episode tomorrow. Also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere. Same thing with the Nerd History channel. Nerd History podcast on youtube.com/@nerdhistoryltn or audio version on Spotify podcasts, etc. Find us on lovethynerd.com/nerdhistorypod. We also have our daily Today in Nerd History video, short, and article that comes out every day on YouTube, TikTok, and over at lovethynerd.com with photos, nerdy facts, all kinds of fun. Deidre and I will be back in May to talk about some of the most iconic sitcom finale episodes in NBC history. But until then, I'm Radio Matt.
And I'm John.
And remember, in the past, present, and the future, Jesus loves you, nerds.